Good morning. It is episode 7 of starting a clothing brand from scratch, and I ended last week's video by saying that I wouldn't have any big updates for you guys. I totally forgot about this hat sample that I had in the works, and it arrived. We're gonna unbox it. I'm gonna show you guys what we got. Before we get into the unboxing, a couple weeks ago I did share some other hat samples that we were working on. They were pretty shite, not gonna lie. I'll pop up some clips from it, but there was a lot of manufacturing issues. I just wasn't happy overall with how the product turned out. So what I did was I decided to take some time, do a deep dive research into hat manufacturers, and I found a good one. Let's just say I paid a pretty penny for these samples, and I actually ended up putting a deposit down for a potential bulk order once we finalize the samples and everything. And they're gonna give me revisions as well. That was part of the reason why I decided to put the deposit down, was because of the free revisions. These are the mock-ups that I was doing for these hats on Procreate. I wanted to put a woven label on the side with a bit of a phrase, as well as the 29 Collective logo across the top of the hat. Originally in the mock-up, I did the contrast stitching because I wanted to show the differences between the hats and like the panels and everything. And then I actually ended up really liking how the contrast stitching worked. With the sample that I got, we didn't do the contrast stitching, we just did regular stitching, but we're gonna unbox this and I'm gonna show you guys how it turned out. My trusty Swiss Army knife. Something that I haven't really thought about yet is how I'm gonna package all the products. If I'm gonna do a box, if I'm gonna do a bag, the labels that I'm gonna put inside them and everything. I need to start thinking about that stuff. This woven label turned out really nice. Okay, so we got a few pamphlets here. I believe these are the color, this is just their hat styles that they actually have. I wanted them to send me the color swatches. I don't think that they sent me them, unfortunately. Snapback caps, truckers, baseballs, and then on this side there's camp caps, laser drilling, I don't even know what that is, beanies, bucket caps. So like this manufacturer, they specialize in hats, which is why I ended up going with them. It's also why it ended up being quite a bit more expensive, but I think overall it's going to be well worth it once I kind of finalize what I want the design to look like and everything. This is the hat. They also sent me a pink beanie, which is random. Off the rip, I haven't even taken this out of the bag yet, but just by feeling it, this hat sample is 100 times better quality than the sample that I got in the first round from a different manufacturer. The weight of the hat is really nice. I can already tell that the stitching is way cleaner. I don't know if you guys remember, but when I showed you the samples last time, there was that weird like fabric that you could see through the bottom, but on this hat there's no fabric that's sticking out at the bottom. Let me just see the finishing of this. Finishing on this is just so much cleaner all the way around. This on the inside of the brim down to this side of the hat, so like you can really see the detail that went into this. It's so much cleaner than the original samples that I got. So a little bit of detail that went into the hat. We did a 6-panel structured cap. It's very similar to a baseball cap. Like with dad hats specifically, they're generally unstructured, so I wanted to do something more firm, more structured. The brim is curved really nice, just that's pre-curved. 29 logo across the top of it there. This is a custom woven stitch that I put in. First collection was gonna be called Crossroads. I'm not sure if I'm totally set on that yet, but this is what we got. The saying is meant to be like a personal saying, so it's not like super readable from the side right away. Tell people what it says when they ask like what it means. And then on the back, we got a embossed 29 metal buckle. That's what it looks like from the side. I think the woven stitch label here is just like such a cool detail. This is what it looks like from the front. From the other side, again, we don't have that extra fabric that came down at the bottom, so this is much cleaner. And then this is what it looks like from the back. The structure on the top, I really just like the added detail to it. It just makes it look a little bit more shaped and intentional, if that makes sense. Overall, very pleased with these hats. Let me know what you guys think of the design and everything. If you like the structured 6-panel cap, I think this is a very good start. I wish I had started with this manufacturer originally. That was a mistake that I made. I rushed into it. Learning lesson for you maybe on that one. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't rush into working with a manufacturer because you're just gonna end up wasting money. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these hats, and I will check in with you guys a little bit later.
Singing stars, singing stars. I'm singing stars, singing stars, sun, sun.
Alright guys, so we're just doing a little bit of back-end work right now. I am currently working on setting up a weekly email that goes out to everybody who signs up on the waitlist. The reason being is that I feel like because there's this big long pause between people signing up on the waitlist and me actually launching the collection or the brand, I want to make sure that people are staying kind of engaged and aware of where things are at with the launch. The idea behind this is that on a weekly basis, I'm just going to send people kind of a recap of the week or a recap of the last 2 weeks and just keep them informed of what's going on. Because this is a forward-facing brand and because I want people to be really kind of aware of what's happening, whenever I have updates, I want to basically share that with not just you guys that I'm doing kind of on YouTube like this, but also with the people who have signed up on the waitlist. Another reason for this is because technically the people who are on the waitlist would be considered warm leads or hot leads, and the longer they're on the waitlist without purchasing anything, the cooler they become. And so I want to make sure that I'm maintaining that email list, keeping them warm, so that when it comes to actual launch day, it's not going to their junk, it's not going to their spam, like people are actually receiving the emails that I'm sending, and obviously on launch day, like receiving the launch email. This is also just super random, but I got a new puppy, and he's been helping me work a little bit, but he's also whining right now, so I'm sorry about that. Overall, with where things are at, I do feel like I am a little bit in limbo right now because of this break. I really don't know what I should be doing during this time where I can't like really talk to my manufacturers at all. Like they're on holiday, right? So they're not responding to my messages. They can't do any revisions to the garments that I've already done or to the revisions that I need to make to anything. So I figured like I would try and focus more so on like the back end side, the brand end. I'm not far enough along into the actual brand where I have this big workload to kind of be doing stuff every day. So right now I'm really trying to just focus on continuously developing the brand identity because I feel like it could change so much over the next couple weeks, and especially as I get more creative and better at creating designs, I think the idea of the brand could evolve a little bit. But you got to start somewhere, right? So that's kind of where we're at with that. This break is confusing me a little bit, and I don't really know what to do. So I'm just trying to find things to do that I think will benefit me in the long run. I think for now, just focusing on building these weekly emails, creating a template, and getting all that sorted before I do anything else is kind of where my main thing is going to be. And then I'll move on from there in terms of like brand identity building, do some more research on different things. I said it before and I will say it again, but this brand was dreamed up by a very difficult year that I had, right? And to be able to use that year and turn it into something better for myself, that's where 29 Collective kind of became. But now it's figuring out how I can use the story that propelled me to starting this brand and feeding it to you guys, to the general population, to the people, to get them to connect with it as well without it being a sob story or like a woe is me story, because that is not what I want to do. I don't want people to buy my clothing or buy 29 Collective because they feel bad for me. I want them to connect with it and buy it because they resonate with the story that I'm trying to tell, and to figure out how I can merge that. I think I said that like in one of the first episodes of doing this, and I still haven't quite figured it out. There's some connections that I've been able to make, but the big thing, like the big driving factor of why I started 29 Collective, I haven't totally figured out how I can merge that into the general population or the general audience of the people who are going to actually be buying the brand. So that's something that we're going to work on. I still got like a week and a half or so, I think, until the manufacturers are back, and from there I'll be able to send them the revisions that we did for the hoodie and the sweats. So there was just like a few minor things that I noticed with the sweats, the logo on the back, for example, and then with the hoodie we did do some pretty big revisions to it. So it's really gonna look like a totally different hoodie to a certain degree. Some of the measurement, like a lot of the measurements are completely different. The cuff size, the ribbing on the waistband, the actual length of the sleeves and the body, like that's all changing. So it's gonna be an even better hoodie. Some pretty big revisions had to be made to the measurements of the hoodie. So I did want to just show you guys the hat again really quick, because there was a fuck up that I made. I made a typo fuck up on this hat, on the woven patch, and That's obviously something that I have corrected and will be sending to the manufacturer for revision, but I'm just kind of pissed off at myself because of this typo. I'm giving these little learning lessons throughout this series, and that is definitely a learning lesson that you want to write down. Get somebody, not just yourself, because especially if you've been working for hours, your eyes might be tired, you might be seeing things differently or like not noticing little mistakes. Get somebody else to double check your work, especially when it comes to typing or font work or lettering. Words, for example, get it double checked. Make sure that it is correct. Make sure you're using the right word, first of all, and make sure that your spelling for everything is correct. It's supposed to say, do you run from adversity, or do you turn and face it head on? But instead, what it says is, do you run from adversity, or do you turn and phase it head on? I put phase instead of face, and so that's on the sample. Very incorrect, should not say that, and it's just because I didn't catch it. It was my own mistake, not the manufacturer's. I didn't send this to anybody to be proofread. I thought what it said was correct, but I think I was maybe just overtired and didn't see it. So a bit of a learning lesson for me is that whenever I'm doing any sort of typography, words, anything like that, to get somebody to proofread it, double check before I send it to the manufacturer, because obviously they are not going to necessarily catch it. They're going to just print what you send them. The sample's kind of fucked because of that. This isn't necessarily something that I could use for a product shoot or anything because of that typo. And yeah, it's just little things like that, right? So keep that in mind. Write that down in your little notebook to get your shit proofread. Anyways, with that being said, I will check in with you guys a little bit later. Patch, and that's obviously something that I have corrected my own mistake, not the manufacturer. So I mentioned that we were making some revisions to the hoodie with the sizing and the logo placements and everything like that. And I want to show you guys kind of what that looks like on Procreate, because it looks complex, but like really it's not that much. It was really just rearranging some of the logos and obviously just changing some of the layout. And so this is kind of what that looks like on my end with what I'll send to the actual manufacturer. So basically this is just kind of like a high level overview of what the garment should look like and the details that should go into it when it comes to the manufacturer actually making it. I think doing this is really important when it comes to working with manufacturers, because it takes out so much of the guesswork that they have to do. Instead of just sending them an idea and actually giving them kind of feedback or insight into what you want to happen, they can go off that and it'll be a much more seamless process. That's just what I found, and obviously this is the first time that I'm doing any of this stuff with Creating 29 Collective in terms of like sending tech packages and all that. So if you are trying to start a clothing brand, or if you're interested in any of this stuff, I would highly recommend learning how to use Procreate and just like understanding the details that go into creating a technical package and the importance of it. This is a little sneak peek into all of the different files that I have for the garments. That's kind of the overall look that I'm going for. Obviously with this one, for the hoodie, for example, I have all the measurements laid out, and then the garment requirements. That has to do with the weight of the fabric, the sample size that I'm going to be doing, as well as the type of print. So if you're doing like puff print, or if you're doing embroidery, 3D embroidery, stuff like that, you obviously want to include that. And then also the fabric that you're using. So that's just going to give like a rundown of all the details that you want put into the garment outside of the measurements. So this is obviously where I want the logos to be placed and how I want specific things to look in terms of like the size of the logo, obviously adding the metal aglets to the drawstrings, the size of the pockets, stuff like that. There's a lot of little details that you kind of have to go into. It is pretty tedious, like time consuming work, because you want to put on paper what you want your garment to look like. But like I just said, it's going to make the process so much smoother, and you're going to save time and you're going to save money, because you're not going to have to be continuously revising samples because you're not giving good feedback to your manufacturer, and there's no guesswork. Yeah, so that's that. Anyways, I think with that being said, guys, we're just going to wrap this video up here. There's not too much more that I can give you. I do want to do a Q&A next week, because there's going to be a little bit more of a pause. I don't have any samples or anything arriving randomly. There was somebody who asked me to do a rundown on Shopify, And I'm gonna tell you right now, like, I'm not the best at it. I'm just going off of things that I've learned. So if I can teach that to you guys in some kind of low level capacity, it's better than nothing, right? You're starting from scratch, just like me. So yeah, I'm gonna do a Q&A next week. So drop your questions in the comments and I will answer as many of those as I can in next week's episode. But otherwise, I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.